Hello, everyone. Welcome to E79 Resources Live Investment Summit today, hosted by Six. I'm pleased to introduce their president and CEO, Patrick Donnelly. Patrick's going to walk us through a company presentation, and after, we're going to enter into a Q&A session. I'd like to remind everyone in the audience that you can ask questions using the Q&A tab found on the right-hand side of your screen at any point during today's summit. And as always, this event is being recorded, and it's going to be available on Six.com as an on-demand video. Without further ado, though, Patrick, I'd like to pass things over to you. Get us started.
Great. Thank you so much, Cameron. And thank you, everybody, for taking the opportunity here about E79. I only just started with the company last May. And the reason I joined, it's an interesting story. The board of directors approached me last spring and introduced me to the story. I never even heard of E79. And so when I started looking at all their public disclosure, specifically the press releases and their technical disclosure, I was really impressed by the assets they have in Australia. And for those who don't know me very well, my background is I was originally an exploration geologist for about 10 years, looking for gold, nickel, zinc, platinum, palladium, diamonds. And so, when I put my geologist hat on and I looked at the story, and the tremendous exploration potential and the tremendous success they've had so far, I was very compelled, and that's why I joined the company last May as president and CEO. The other thing I'll mention is people always ask me, and I'll get it out of the way, what does E79 stand for? It's the 79th element on the periodic table, which happens to be gold. So that's how they came up with the name. E79 is a relatively new company. It's only been around for just over a year, and our initial drilling commenced early in 2021. So I think that's one of the reasons why the story is not very well known. And but since I've joined in May, I've been out and about telling the story. I just got back from Beaver Creek, and which was a very successful conference, and I was very pleased with the quality of the attendees. So we can talk more about that later. And at this point, let's get into the story. So here are some forward-looking statements. I will be making some forward-looking statements. So just to start off with, if I had 30 seconds to tell you why you should invest. The first thing is, one thing I learned a long time ago as a geologist, the best place to look for a mine is within a shadow of a head frame. And specifically, our assets are located in the Victorian Goldfields of Southern Australia. And specifically, we're in the same area as the world-class Fosterville mine, which I'll talk a little bit about later. There's a few other mines, the Costerfield mine, Ballarat, and a number of others. And this area, historically, has produced over 80 million ounces of gold, which is a staggering amount. So you want to be in these gold fields, and it's an area that's been relatively underexplored, and I'll talk more about that in a minute. The other thing is, as I mentioned, we started drilling just over a year ago, and right off the bat, we had some very good drilling results. Our third hole was a screamer, 11 meters of 160 grams at our Happy Valley prospect within Myrtleford, which I'll talk more about in a minute. So, and since then, we've put out very high grade results. So these deposits that we're working on have very high grades and are very discrete. So again, grade is king, and that's what you want. Very large land package in the Victoria Goldfields, which I'll talk about in a minute. You want big land packages with good geology and lots of smoke. Our drilling costs are low. Matter of fact, it says here 315. Actually, those drilling costs have been coming down. We're using a family-run drilling company, and I was just talking to our people last week, and our direct drilling costs, so just the drill itself, we're paying 150 Australian per meter. And just put that in perspective, the Canadian dollar, Australian dollar trades at 0.9 of a Canadian dollar. So, these costs are going to come down quite a bit. We have a lean team. There's not a lot of employees. We have one drill turning, and so again, we can get most bang for the buck. Experience management, the board. I've been doing this for a long time. Been doing this for 30 years. I was a geologist. I was a mining analyst. for a number of years in Toronto, and I've been on the corporate side for the last 10 years, and I've been all over the world. So our VP of Exploration, Shane Melly, he's an Australian. He's based in Australia, and he's worked all over Victorian Goldfields, and he's just a great asset. And one thing I've learned, in this industry, especially now, and probably this audience is aware, there's an acute shortage of talented people. So, we're very fortunate to have Shane and his team there in Australia. And I think one saying I've heard before is, we've had bad teams ruining good projects. In our case, I think we have a very strong team, and I'm very confident in their capabilities. Cash, we got lots of cash. So, 6 million Canadian, and most of our costs are Australian dollars. So, we're in a good spot. I'm not here, as Rick Rule would say, with the begging bowl. I'm here because we're moving ahead with drilling, and we think we can make this cash last for a long time. And meanwhile, we'll keep drilling on our assets and putting out news. So, despite the markets, we're small, we're nimble, we have quality assets, and I think our exploration costs are relatively low. We're not, for exploration, we're not using helicopters or large camps or that sort of thing. We're 20 minutes from the local town in a very supportive area of Australia. So just to give you an overview where we are, as I said before, we're in the Victorian Goldfields. This is an area that's produced a lot of gold. And just a bit of background, this area was first, there was activity in this area in the late 1800s with the Australian Victorian gold rush. And so that's how this area is originally discovered. And you have, numerous deposits. You can see here, there's Costerfield, Ballarat, Stowell, Bendigo, Fosterville. And these deposits, they're very, very high grade, and they're narrow. And it's kind of interesting. This area, I call it kind of the stepchild of Australian mining districts until 2016. And this area was kind of turned on its head when Kirkland Lake Gold found really high grade gold mineralization at Fosterville. And Fosterville, for those you're not aware, was a very challenging asset. It's been around for, producing gold for a long time. It was very metallurgically challenging. It was running 4 grams per ton, open pit, and it was a very, very marginal deposit. And then in 2016, they found this very, very high grade zone called the Swan Zone, which was multi-ounce coarse gold. And that really turned things around for Kirkland Lake Gold, and ended up becoming one of the highest grade, most profitable mines in the world. So that's garnered a lot of attention for this area, going away from metallurgically challenging deposits to deposits with very, very coarse gold, easy to recover. And so, Kirkland Lake, I think, revised their production guidance 3 times in, I think it was 2017 or 2018, from a couple 100,000 ounces per year to over, I think it was almost 600,000 ounces per year. And so just the high grade nature. So it's really resulted in a lot of companies coming into the area. It's getting a lot of attention. Unfortunately, our principals got in early. They got these assets in 2019. And again, we're in the heart of Victorian Gold Belt. So again, as I always say, you want to be in good geography and around projects that have already been successful. So again, compelling area, and again, very, very supportive environment. So let's start with Myrtleford. And I was down there just last June, and I was very, very impressed with what I saw. What blew me away, or really impressed me, is that there's numerous gold showings, adits, workings in the area. And most of the original production, late 1800s, was alluvial mining, and they pulled out over 5 million ounces of gold from the alluvials. That's an astounding amount of gold. So the question is, where is this gold coming from? Which I'll talk about in a minute. There's been no modern exploration in this area, no drilling. And so we acquired this in 2019. And as I said before, only last year we started drilling this area. So again, very, very compelling area. Here's a map showing Myrtleford. It's a large land package, length of 45 kilometers. The red dots here represent gold occurrences in the form of workings, showings, adits. And what's really fascinating is when the old timers were here and they were mining the hard rock sources of this alluvial gold, they only went down to the water table. They only went about 30 meters or so. Then they stopped because they didn't have the capability to deal with the water because they were hitting it with pickaxes and shovels. It was all manual. So that's what really impressed me is, there's so much smoke, and yet, nobody really thought of much of this area until recently. And again, the change in thinking at Fosterville, I think, contributed to that. So, so again, large property and lots of smoke, tons of smoke. And so what we're doing is chasing those workings. So we only started drilling last year. It's 40 kilometers long, and the two areas we're focusing on are Twist Creek and Happy Valley. And we originally commenced drilling at Happy Valley in early 2021, and we only started drilling Twist Creek earlier. I think it was in April we commenced drilling there. So again, and those aren't the only two areas. We got lots of other areas here. This big, multi-kilometer stretch here is the Magpie Zone, and that's another area that's never been drilled. So there's a lot of low-hanging fruit, and we got more targets than we know what to do with. So we're going out, we're flying it. We've done LiDAR survey on the area. We've also done a lot of geochem, rock chip sampling, soil geochem, and a lot of other work to further refine these targets and go in there and drill them. So here specifically is Happy Valley. It's a 13-kilometer long trend. I was up there in June, and this is an area that saw a lot of historical activity. And the old timers that were there in the 1800s, they were chasing coarse gold. So if you see an adit or you see a trench or any other working, then you know that originally hosted coarse gold. And I think the average grade was, over an ounce. So, they're going after high grade. And again, they're doing this by hand, basically pick and shovel, and, no modern exploration methods were used. So again, really intriguing area. This is where we started. You can see here we've drilled about 25 holes in Happy Valley. This is the plan map showing that drilling, and specifically hole 3 was the screamer, but we've also had other holes that had very, very good mineralization, and I'll show you that here. Here's the plan map. We're dealing with these vertical to subvertical reefs. They tend to be very, very high grade. So you can see here, hole 3, 11 meters, 160 grams. Hole 6, you have 2 meters of 44 grams. Hole 7, almost 6 meters of 66 grams. So again, and it's completely open at depth. Right now, we're not drilling there. We've taken a step back. It's completely open at depth. But what we're working on now is putting together a 3-dimensional model showing the location of these reefs. There's numerous structures in the area. So before we go back and start drilling deep holes, we really want to have a good 3-dimensional model to help us target these structures and reefs as they go to depth. But it's completely open. And again, very, very high grade and very positive results. And here on slide 12, you can see some of these results, again, very, very high grade. And that's the nature of this area. And it's interesting, when I went to the Fosterville mine, I met Fosterville's now owned by Agnico, and we met with their technical people who were very, very gracious. And we spent a lot of time talking about the evolution of the Fosterville mine, specifically the Swan Zone. And what I came away with, one, is that the Swan Zone is very discrete. It's not a big deposit, but yet it's very, very high grade. And what was interesting, as I mentioned before, there were numerous operators at that mine, and they never could find the Swan Zone. They kept missing it. And they were always, targeting the sulfides, which are always metallurgically challenging. And so what my point is, these deposits, they're not large, they're very discrete, and yet they're very, very rich. So when you hit them, you hit them. And so, you could be 10 feet away and miss it. So again, we're trying to be intelligent about it. We're trying to be methodical, and that's why we're doing this 3-dimensional model. The other area we were focusing on at Myrtleford is Twist Creek. And again, you can see here, 7-kilometer long trend of workings, very, very high grade showings. You can see, I walked it in June. And there's all kinds of working showings, adits, trenches. And again, the old timers in 1800s, late 1800s, were chasing these things. And again, there's never been a drill hole here. So we only started drilling here in May or in April. And as I said before, pretty high grade. The historical grades are around an ounce. So again, if you're hitting ounce material that's about an ounce, you're not going to need much material to put together a decent resource. So we started drilling there. You can see here's a number of high-grade reefs on slide 14 here. And the two areas that we've really become excited about are Victoria and Scandinavian. Put out some very, very high grades from there. And we're drilling there right now. We got one drill turning at Twist Creek, and we'll continue on from there. So the topography is pretty good. And again, the access is fantastic. You're 20 minutes from town. And as a matter of fact, all our employees live locally. So we don't have to fly people in. We have no camps. And our employees like working here because a lot of Australians used to have to fly to other places to work and stay in camps or remote areas. Here, these are geologists and technical people. They sleep in their beds at night. So it's a great situation for everybody. And so it's a nice change for me because I'm, as a Canadian geologist, most of my experience is working in really remote areas and camps. So here's a plan map of the Scandinavian prospect at Twist Creek. You can see here, we've had some very, very good drill holes, and mineralization's open at depth. And so we're following up with that now. And at Scandinavian, here's a cross section of the drilling results to help you get, so you can conceptualize this mineralization. It's open at depth. And so we're right now following up on the original drilling. So hopefully we'll have some results in the coming months from Scandinavian. Here's the Victoria prospect. Again, more drilling results, very good grades. And again, it's open at depth. And so now we'll also be following up at Victoria at the Twist Creek project. Our other project, Beaufort, is in the western portion of the Victorian Goldfields. And again, very large land package, 20 kilometers long. There's been a lot of historical alluvial production, over 1 million ounces at very, very good grades. Again, great infrastructure. Topography is very favorable to doing work. And again, I was up there in June walking the area. And again, you could see all the working showings, adits. And then adjacent to the property, you could see where all the alluvial mining happened. And so again, the question is, where is this gold coming from? And you can see here, we've identified some of the structures that control gold mineralization. We've done a lot of geochem work, specifically soils, rock chip sampling, and LIDAR. And again, you got these north-south trending structures. And again, you can see on slide 21, you can see, some of the geochem we've done with some contoured gold grades and the interpretation of all the structures. So we haven't drilled there yet. We'll probably go in there later in the year and do some shallow air core drilling, and then we'll probably follow it up with some diamond drilling. So again, a very, very interesting area. A lot of historical golds coming out of here. And so we do have high expectations for this project. So I've mentioned Fosterville a few times, and I won't get into too much detail here. But what I will say and reiterate is, again, it's not big, but it's very, very high grade. And, it was a very challenging mine. And they discovered a swan zone only in 2016, which has changed everything in the whole, Victoria Gold Belt and how, on the geology, mineralization, and structure. And again, I want to reiterate that, they did a lot of drilling and missed it a few times, and then they finally hit it. So again, one of the high, grade is king, and that's why we like these deposits. And again, it's totally opened up the whole region. And here, I won't get into too much detail here. I know, if I start talking about geology, I'll put everybody to sleep. But what I will say is there's some really good similarities between our projects and what you see at Fosterville. And what's really interesting is the whole geologic interpretation of the region has been changing quite a bit. There's a gentleman named Ross Cayley who is an academic and works for the Victoria State Government as their lead geoscientist, and he's been doing a lot of work on that. And so again, I think that's one of the reasons why this area is really opened up. There's a lot of junior mining companies in the area, a lot of Canadian companies, a lot of Australian companies, and it's because this area has been turned on its head, and again, only within the last few years. So again, very good similarities with Fosterville, and again, we talked to the Fosterville people quite a bit, and get some of their intelligence, and then apply that to how we're looking for these gold deposits. Capital structure, this company last year was over $1, and it's gone all the way down to about 20 cents. Reason being is, I only started in May, and there wasn't anybody really running a company for 6 or 7 months before I came aboard. So while we're putting out really good drilling results, there wasn't really any marketing, nobody telling the story, and yet we're pulling out really good drilling results. So we got $6 million in cash. We think we can make that last for a while. Great institutional shareholders. We got Eric Sprott, Commodity Capital, US Global, very good, very, very good. And management insiders own a lot of stock. And I've been buying stock in the market. These prices are just ridiculous. They're trading an enterprise value of only $3 million, and we're in one of the most prolific gold mining jurisdictions in the world. So very, very strong. We've no warrants, no debt, nothing like that. Again, really good capital structure and ownership for the company. So just regards to what are we expecting to do in the next few months? As I said before, right now we're at Twist Creek. We'll continue drilling we'll continue to drill there. We plan to go back to Happy Valley and maybe drill some of those deeper reefs and extend to the depth. And then also there's Magpie, which we really like a lot, which we haven't even touched. So again, we have so many areas that we could drill, and so yeah, it's great to have smoke everywhere. So again, we're gonna be methodical about it. We're gonna be intelligent about it. Our drilling costs are pretty tight. We will do some more work at Beaufort, as I said before, some air core drilling, and then later on we'll do some diamond drilling. So lots to do. We can make this money last for a while, and meanwhile keep on drilling. So just in conclusion, why is E79 a compelling story? Again, large land position, lots of showings, lots of workings, lots of pits, lots of areas that have never seen any systemic modern exploration. We expect more exploration success, and we have a very good team. They know what they're doing. They're from the area. They've all worked at Fosterville and some of these other areas in Australia, and so they're doing the work. And my job is to tell the story and keep an eye on the cash. Again, we've already had great success at Happy Valley, hole 3. As you saw, there are other holes that are very, very compelling as well. We're well financed, $6 million in cash, and we have tremendous shareholders. And it's funny, I was down at Beaver Creek, and I met a lot of these shareholders, and they're very, very supportive. And they're going to stick with us, which is great. And finally, as you're all well aware, jurisdictions become more of a problem than ever, and even in North America. And so we're in an area, the Victorian government's just tremendous. They really support mining. They're putting a lot of money into academic research in the area to help gold mining companies. They're flying geophysical surveys to support mining companies. And there's a very straightforward, prescriptive permitting and operating system in that state. And a great, as you're well aware, Australia's got a great workforce. The mining's in their blood. And so I can't think of anything better, anywhere better to be. So again, very, very happy to be there. So anyway, 26 minutes, and I am happy to answer every single question that's out there. So I'll pass it back to Cameron.
Yeah, absolutely, Patrick. Well, thank you so much for the great presentation. And with that, I'd like to remind everyone in the audience that you can ask questions using the Q&A tab found on the right-hand side of your screen. First question, though, Patrick. Do you know yet if it's going to be an open pit or an underground mining, or both, for that matter? It seems like...
Yeah, I'd say it's likely to be underground. What's interesting with these deposits, they're pretty narrow, but they're super high grade, so it'd be lending itself to underground mining methods. And what what was interesting, the Australians in this neck of the woods are, they're very, very comfortable with doing narrow underground mining, and that's what we see at Fosterville. And when you got very, very high grade material, you have a lot of slack to mine narrow vein deposits. So it'll most likely be underground.
All right. How long is your cash going to last at this point?
Probably 18 months to 2 years at the current burn rate, and that's if we keep drilling. So we are cash for quite a while.
Fair enough. Regarding share price, why is it that it's at about 20 cents compared to especially over a year ago where it was more than $1?
Yeah, as I said before, the previous CEO left last fall, and despite the fact they're putting out great drilling results, and it took them, it was really hard to. They wanted the right person to run the ship, and so for 7 months there was nobody at the helm to tell the story, and so there was no marketing, no conferences, nothing, and they're putting out really good drill results, but the challenge is, you want to put out drill results, but you need someone to explain what they mean and tell the story. So it's been a very, very quiet story. And, for example, when the board approached me, I think it was in March, I didn't know what E79 was. I never even heard of it. And I've been around the block a few times. I've been in this business for over 30 years. So I think there just wasn't anybody pushing the story. And I think and people as you're well aware, in this business, when you're telling a story like this, you got to stay front and center. You got to stay on top of your shareholders, and you got to be shouting from the rooftops. So I think that's the main reason, because the results have been very, very good, and I'm very happy with what I've seen. And when once I read everything, read all the disclosures, and met all the people, I was like, wow, this is a great opportunity. And hey, shares are cheap, so I've been buying stock. It's crazy, but obviously the markets don't help. But I'm not going to use that excuse. I think it's just simply that it's a story that needs more needs someone to champion it, and that's what I'm going to do.
All right then. Are you looking at any other transactions?
Yeah, you know what? We're looking. There's great opportunities in the state of Victoria, and there's other juniors in the area. They're not in as strong financial position as we are. So yeah, we like we know it very well. Our technical people know the back of their hands, and so if an opportunity comes along, we'll look at it. So we want to specialize in that, and the holding costs aren't high, and as I said, the drilling costs aren't that high, and it's easy to get around. So yeah, absolutely. If we see something interesting, we'll investigate it.
Okay, fair enough. What's the greatest upcoming challenge that you're anticipating?
I think that's a great question. I think the biggest challenge is just these headwinds, right? And the uncertainty in the markets. Everybody's been beaten up, and it's a risk-off environment. And we're a little junior mining company, so we got 2 years of cash, and and I got to remember, our insiders and founders have a lot of stock, right? They don't want to do a financing at 20 cents. They'd be very, very reticent. So it's trying to balance, trying to get exploration bang for the buck, keep the drills turning, but also making sure that our cash lasts, right? I don't believe in, just sitting there, shutting everything down and sitting on the cash. I don't think the shareholders appreciate that. But at the same time, is you don't want to dilute your shareholders as well. So I think that's the balance I'm trying to straddle, is keep the drills turning, make the cash last, and get bang for the buck.
Fair enough. Have you spoken to any major gold mining companies?
Yeah, absolutely. There's discussion. Like I said, we were at Fosterville in June, and which is owned by Agnico, and they're interested in, and they're talking to everybody that's working in the district. And it's interesting. When I was at the Fosterville mine, they're spending $60 million this year in exploration, because the Swan Zone's not going to last forever. So absolutely, we were just at Beaver Creek, and we spoke to a number of companies that are interested in the area. And again, this is an area that never really got a lot of love until Kirkland Lake, which is now Agnico, made that breakthrough at the Swan Zone, and so it's opened up a lot of eyes. And so, yeah, absolutely. If you're a major, you got to look at this area because, as I said before, it's also a region that's very politically stable, very supportive, and a good place to do business. So, yeah, absolutely. We've had people approach us, and we'll talk to them. I think my view is we got so many areas to look at. We don't want to give away the cow or the milk, and we got lots of money. So let's see what we got. We'll talk to people, but we want to extract full value out of these properties, and so we're not in any rush to do anything with anybody, but we'll certainly talk to them.
Absolutely. Okay. This next question is requesting that you talk about, you dive in on and review your technical team.
Absolutely. Shane Melly, he's our VP of exploration, and he's been doing this for 30 years. He's worked all over the Victorian Goldfields. His previous employer was Navarre, which is also in the area. And so he's from Victoria. All his experience is in Victoria, and so that's what you want, right? And he's just a great guy, and I rely on him heavily. And him and I talk to Shane probably almost every day. And technology is great. WhatsApp and Zoom and all these other technologies is great because it allows us to work together, and communication is so vital in this business, and I believe in strong communication. So and then we have our team in Australia. Like I said, they're all the advantage we have is that they all live in the local town, which is 20 minutes from our projects, so they're not having to fly. A lot of them historically have always had to fly to Western Australia or Northern Territory and do like a 2 or 3 week stint and then come home. Here they go home every night. So for us, it's an advantage to attract and retain people. So we're very fortunate to have experienced people who can drive to our project.
All right. Could you review your upcoming catalysts for the next 12 months?
Absolutely. So right now, drilling at Twist Creek. So we'll probably be there for the next month or two. The plant. So we'll put out drilling results from there. We're looking at some other acquisitions, properties in the area. So stay tuned for that. We'll start air core drilling at Beaufort. Hopefully, we're looking at November, and then follow that up with diamond drilling, and then obviously going back to Happy Valley and seeing what's at depth. So, and then as I mentioned before, the other area that was really intrigued was Magpie, which is halfway down, and that's long strike length. And as I said before, I walked it with Shane last June, and it's full of workings. So when you see workings and showings and adits, they're chasing multi-ounce gold. So there's no shortage of smoke in the area. It's just incredible. So we'll be chasing that. So we'll have, the drill's turning. We got one drill. It's going to plug away, and we'll probably put out 1 to 2 press releases per month on the drilling. So that's the plan.
Okay, well, Patrick, listen, I want to thank you for coming on today. That's all the questions we've had to come in so far. I, of course, want to thank everyone in the audience for joining us today, especially those who have asked questions. But Patrick, before we wrap up the day, I want to pass things back to you, give you an opportunity to have some closing remarks, final words.
Yeah, absolutely. And thank everybody for taking the time to hear the story. And I just put up my contact details based in Vancouver. You can reach me at Patrick at E79Resources.com or the info at E79Resources.com. I always respond to my emails, and I'm willing to talk about E79. I'm willing to talk about gold mining. As I said before, I'm an ex-analyst, so you want to talk about the markets or anything else, I'm happy to. I like talk. Mining's in my blood, and my father was a miner, and so I've been doing this for a long time. So I pretty much don't have a life except for mining. So if you want to talk about it, send me an email, and I'm happy to answer any questions. And again, thank you so much for taking the time. Hopefully these markets turn around, gold moves up, and everybody stays healthy.